watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
You sick fucks, you've seen one too many.
I said, don't you blame the movies! Movies don't create psychos! Movies make psychos more creative!
How's it going, horror hounds? And welcome to the It Slays podcast. This is episode 3 now. 3, I was going to say 2. I guess 2 formal reviews, but 3 in total. And so we are talking about The Invitation this evening. And as always, we'll start by saying if you haven't watched The Invitation, please go watch it before you listen to this, because we spoil the shit out of everything.
No regrets.
Hashtag no regrets. I am Rowan.
Hey, it's Exilia.
This is Mike.
And we are your co-hosts for this evening. Exilia likes that because I don't remember why, but we had a conversation that I always say I'm the host.
Yeah, and I said, what
and
about me and Mike?
we're all co-hosts.
Yeah.
That's how I mean it. So
yeah,
anybody thinks I'm not a Stalin. I'm not running this ship.
We all know who's in the driver's seat.
It's Exilia.
Yeah, I pull the strings.
So yeah, I figure we'll get right into it. Anything else we'll talk about at the end. General housekeeping. So let's talk about some quick facts. Exilia, why don't you tell us who directed this lovely movie?
Karyn Kusama? Why are you asking me?
I just thought maybe you would want to...
Mike has more good information about her.
Mike, why don't you talk about what would we be familiar with?
Okay, first of all, Girl Fight, starring Queen Michelle Rodriguez, although she's problematic queen now, so let's just maybe gloss over that. That's a whole other podcast. But also, 2 of my, one of which is sort of like a hidden gem fave, and it's also like a guilty pleasure. Aeon Flux, the adaptation of the brilliant MTV, like, visionary cartoon from the 90s, starring Queen Charlize, who is not problematic that I know of. And, of course, cult classic Jennifer's Body, with, our girls, Amanda Seyfried, and Megan Fox, who does not get the credit she deserves for that movie. She's so good in it.
We might have to review that.
Yeah, we definitely do, but, I mean, we don't want to delve too deep into that because, the politics of Megan Fox is, like, again, it's a whole podcast in itself, and I won't bore people with that.
And she also did a segment of the XX anthology that came out 2 years ago, I believe. It was a year ago or 2 years ago, of all women horror directors. That also featured an amazing segment from St. Vincent. She did a segment that was incredible. And this was co-written by her husband, Phil Hay, who's written the Oscar award-winning films such as Clash of the Titans, R.I.P.D., Ride Along, and what will probably go down in history as one of the most important movies of our time, Ride Along 2.
Yep, hashtag amen.
Hashtag amen. And just to leave off, I always talk about the budget. So the budget was $1 million for this film. It was a very low budget film.
If you said $0, I would have believed it. Which is not a slag on the movie. I love it. It was very they were clearly pulling the budget like taffy, and I respect that.
And it made $354,835. It had a very limited release, and then went straight to VOD and Netflix and the such.
That was like all of their friends just going to the theater the 1 week it was out.
Yeah, everyone please come see this.
Again, not a slag. It was great.
That's right.
I wish I had that many friends.
We wish we had friends that would give us all that money. Yeah, so let's just get into it. Mike, why don't you start off and your thoughts on the beginning?
Well, I mean, well, let's start at the beginning. I quite enjoyed the opening scene, even though, again, like the rest of the movie, 85% of the movie, it was a real slow burn. But I loved the like cold open of it. I loved that it sort of, of course, played with like that trope of like a car with, a couple driving down this like lonely road, and I had never seen it before when we watched this for the first time for the podcast. So I didn't know if it was like something that was going to take place like out in the woods somewhere. So when they were driving down this road, it's just like you get like this empty road and trees and stuff like that. I just assumed that it was going to be like a wrong turn, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that sort of thing. But as we find out, it is not. It's in the Hollywood Hills. But I just really thought that was such a great way to open it, because it primes you. Like, if you're a horror fan and you see this, like, your neurons are firing. You're already going like, okay, is this going to be cannibals? Like, what is it? Is there going to be glass on the road or nails or something? Like, what's going to happen? So I just thought that was great. I thought it was a nicely done opening.
Yeah, and they and like I guess we can get right into it. The fact that so pretty much right in the open, they hit a coyote, and I know as an intro, when I first saw it, not really knowing what it was, to me that was like, it was cool that they started off like right away with like something happening, like, because they're kind of having this, like, they're looking at each other. I think they're having a conversation, aren't they? I can't remember if they're just looking at each other, but they're just kind of driving, and then all of a sudden, like, something happens, and boom, they hit something. And I like that we start kind of playing with the themes of the movie almost immediately, so we can kind of see what this movie's gonna be like, kind of the tone. I think it just sets the tone.
Yeah, the whole coyote thing, that's kind of my worst nightmare, is to like hit an animal while I'm driving, and then I don't have a license, but for Rowan to hit an animal while he's driving and me be in the car, and then it not die, and then you have to, like, someone has to go kill it, because this was my whole thing. What do you do in that situation? In between the time we lived from Newfoundland to Toronto, we stayed with Rowan's parents in like a very, very, very rural place. And there was this road that was about a half-hour stretch from like the closest town to their house, and any night we would go down it. There's like pheasants, porcupines, there was a dog one time, raccoons, everything. And we almost hit a porcupine, and I like freaked and made Rowan drive about 30 down this road forever. And I'm like so tense and like anxiety ridden about not hitting anything. And so we lived there for 2 months and got away with not hitting anything. And then the night that his dad drove us to the airport to move to Toronto, literally 20 seconds before we get off this highway, we fucking hit a porcupine and kill it. And it was just like traumatic. I just like, I can't. And his whole family all summer made fun of me about like roadkill and stuff. So like this already, the beginning of it just is traumatic for me.
Yeah, and I like we said, I really like the intro. The only real qualms I had with it was kind of after that, when we're doing the credits. I didn't like the shot of the trees that was like real kind of staticky, blurry. I also felt the title card when that comes on, like, so they had the invitation. I felt you could kind of see the budget there, because it just didn't look properly blended.
Yeah, okay, I agree with the blurriness, and I just think that's such a random, like, it's in the daytime, the sky is blue, and the whole movie's set at night, so I just think that's random. But the title card, I was actually reading, like, that is an imitation of a movie from the 70s. I can't, something men, I can't remember. So maybe that's why it looks a bit more low budget.
Yeah, perhaps. So, we get up to, they drive up to this house. My first thought was immediately, what the hell are these guys doing for work? And where do I get friends like this that have beautiful houses like this?
Oh, but it's true LA fashion in that, like, you have this fucking gorgeous, beautifully architectured house and have no discerning day job.
It's true.
Yeah,
Not even like an actor or something. Like, it's just, where the fuck is your money coming from? What are you doing for work?
Yeah,
Tell me, please.
It was absolutely gorgeous. Kind of fun fact about that I was reading was when you pull up and you see the house number, when we actually are confronted with the house number again, it's actually a different house number because they used 2 different locations. Because I believe if I read right, they had a house, and then I think some of it was shot on a Universal set or something. So they didn't. It was kind of an oversight, which
Universal
I personally love.
set? Are you sure you don't mean the back parking lot of an Arby's?
I mean, it could be that as well.
Okay, fair enough, fair.
And I like, me personally, like, little things like that, I love that in movies. Like, I'm all about, when I watch a movie, I like to see, like, all the kind of things that, because whenever I think about film, like, you think about, like, this perfection of a movie being made, and I like to know that people are normal and oversee things just like everyone else. So those kind of little things make me smile. So we get into the party. We get into the house. They're kind of like the we should what's the girl's name? I never remember the girlfriend's name.
Kira
And Trey.
Will.
Yes, Will. He played
His name
Trey.
is not Trey.
He played Trey in the OC. I saw Exilio when he came on screen tear up a little bit.
I just found it so distracting, to be honest. I found him so distracting because all I could think about was the OC.
And for the record, for anybody listening, the 3 of your hosts are massive fans of the OC and all the actors and the soundtrack and just hashtag OC life.
He is the center of quite literally one of the most epic OC episodes in the entire series.
Yeah.
And he has this long hair, right? And he's a bit older now, and he has the
scraggly in the beard. Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. I find it distracting. Sorry.
Yeah, and I had written down that he had the same facial hair as Martin from Knocked Up, so I found it distracting because I just thought about funny jokes from Knocked Up when they were making fun of his facial hair. But yeah, so they enter this party, and they're kind of the last ones to arrive. Everyone's there having a drink. Definitely the first thing I thought when they entered the party was that the music was not the best party music. It was a little somber for my taste.
I agree, and I loved the song, though. I'm the king of, like, putting, depressing shit on at a party and just bringing everybody down to the ground.
I can't actually remember at the moment what the music was, but I remember when I was watching it a second time when we were taking notes for this, and I was like, what are they listening to? I can't remember if it was like some sort of weird, like, Italian opera or like something. I don't know. I can't remember, but I was just like, whoa, this is
I believe
strange.
it was like folky, wasn't it?
Was it? Oh, yeah, it kind of was.
Like, I think it was like a singer-songwriter type
sort of,
song.
It was like, had a weird vibe to it. I mean, I guess it kind of set the stage well, but...
Like if Joni Mitchell took a benzo or something.
So yeah, we get in this party, and this is where we're kind of introduced to our motley crew of characters. I don't know. Let's talk about who is everyone's favorite character.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about my favorite character first. I want to say that I pooped my pants a little bit because the hostess's, I don't know if it's her boyfriend or her husband. Anyway, he was played by that, I think he's like a Dutch actor from Game of Thrones and Orphan Black, and I just think he's spectacular, and I love him.
And Haunting of Hill House.
Yes, The Haunting of which I haven't seen yet. Yes, so I keep.
Yes, you have
that's
to
right.
watch.
But
Everybody
like
shame
he is great. He's a really charismatic,
Fantastic.
great actor.
Yeah.
Just
I think my favorite actor is not necessarily someone I like the most, but I thought was the most interesting character, and it was Pruitt for sure. He was by far the most interesting.
AKA Drew Carey's brother from the Drew Carey Show.
That's right.
AKA what's his name? Twisty the Clown from American Horror Story.
Yeah, American Horror
Let's not
Story.
forget, that was almost like a deep cut. That was a fucking Easter egg that I loved.
Yeah, when you were saying that, now that I know that that's him, I can totally see it through the makeup and everything.
Yeah. He just looks like a fucking creeper.
Until you said that, I did not know that he played Twisty the Clown.
No.
Yeah.
But I also, I had a kind of a tie. I loved Pruitt. And like we said, if you're listening to this, you've watched the movie, so you'll know we're kind of jumping ahead with Pruitt. But Pruitt, to me, kind of just, he stole the show. The acting was great. He's such a great character actor.
Yeah.
And to me, it was kind of a tie between him and I really enjoyed, is it Sadie?
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed
Sadie,
Sadie.
yes.
I love that actress. If you haven't seen it, she's from a very, very independent horror movie called Lace Crater.
Really good movie.
Really good movie that has another one of my favorite soundtracks in a movie.
I was going to say, you guys have been trying to get me to watch that for 3 years, I want to say, at least.
Let me lay out a quick premise. A girl goes to a cabin to drink with friends and has sex with a ghost who is like an emo frontman of...
Spoiler alert.
Well, yeah, what... Spoiler...
Just in case if you
Well,
ever
this
wanna
is
see
this is on the write-up.
Yeah.
She basically gets an STD from a ghost.
But then, the ghost is
The ghost should be the front man of an emo band because he's so emo and
the ghost is like a person essentially, but it's like a ghost in a burlap sack kind of thing. It's you just gotta see
you have
it.
to watch it to see. It's great. The soundtrack is almost entirely done. Is it Neon Baby? No.
Neon Indian.
Neon Indian.
Oh,
that's
I
what
love
they're
Neon
called.
Indian. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Neon
nice,
Indian does
lush
a lot.
synth pop.
Yeah, they
exactly.
do a lot. They do the main theme, and they do have a couple songs on the soundtrack. It's amazing. Anyway, I really enjoyed her character.
I can't stand her because she reminds me of someone I know that is like that, and I just as I get older and more no nonsense, I actually cannot stand people like that.
It's somebody that you want to just shake by the shoulders.
Yeah.
She's the loose cannon of the group. She's the wild. She's kind of like
She's a hippie. She's a hippie.
a flower child.
She's
Yeah.
so flighty, come back down to earth. I
Get with
don't
the
know.
program, bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're introduced to kind of the cast, which we'll kind of all touch on. So there's Will, there's his girlfriend, I can never remember her name, Kira. We have Sadie, we have Pruitt, we have the boyfriend we talked about. There's Eden, who is essentially the co-star of this movie, and that is his ex-wife. And yeah, I feel like we didn't really set the premise up that they are going to a dinner party
At his
the ex-wife's house with friends.
/ his old house.
His old house, yes.
/ also the guy who plays, what's his name? David? Lives there now.
Yeah. So, yeah, I quickly thought to myself, as I'm sure everyone does when they watch this, I'm like, would I be going to this dinner party? And I know my answer is probably not.
I'm just thinking wow, this is gonna be fucking awkward.
Yeah, I mean, it's just right from the get-go. It's sort of one of
Even in
those,
the best of times.
yeah, in the the best possible outcome of that is that it's awkward and nothing happens. Like, that's the absolute best outcome of this dinner party.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, I'm terrible with names. So we have Miguel. Miguel is a doctor.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
He knows something. He knows about medical things.
He's a clinician of some sort.
Yeah.
And he's there with his boyfriend, who I can't remember his name.
I don't remember his name.
Me either. And then there's Ben.
There's Ben, who is like the best friend. Claire.
She's like, what, the professor?
She is a professor, yeah.
She's a professor. Level-headed.
Mike's best friend / favorite character, Gina.
I love Gina.
And Gina's kind of... I think right away you can kind of tell Gina is like the ex-party kid.
Oh yeah, I was going to say she's low-key, like party girl, like, you know.
Troy.
Fucking Troy. We immediately find out that Troy is always late and never shows up for these parties.
Oddly enough, though, if you skip to the end, Troy's actually early and the first person there, but then forgets something and has to leave. So,
but that's a large plot point is, you know, his absence. So clearly he had to forget something, you know, in order for the rest of the movie, for the red herring to be set up, because he is the red herring for like 2/3 of the movie.
Also, you guys were talking about how beautiful the house was. Of course, I have to comment on the beautiful mid-century modern aesthetic.
Oh, we love mid-century modern.
It's me too. I love. Actually, I saw a house back home in this place called Colebrook that is like a mid-century modern, and I was just like, oh, like I could move there. It's in the middle of the woods, but that's fine. And they had like that beautiful pattern that's repeated throughout the house. So the lantern that you see outside, the bars that cover the windows, there's a lampshade inside. There's several things. I just absolutely love the aesthetic.
Can I also just point out really quickly that, by the way, this is the second time we were recording this episode.
Yes.
As usual, we had a big technical hiccup. We had a 2-hour episode originally recorded. But anyway, I thought that, speaking of the bars on the window, which were absolutely gorgeous and I made a note about, I just thought that was a really cool, like, kind of subtle Easter egg to, like, Nightmare on Elm Street. And the whole, like, him wearing the, like, key, kind of like Nancy's mom in Nightmare on Elm Street and, like, locking everybody in. So, you know, sort of making a prison. I just thought that was really cool.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, I did really like that as well.
Mike and I are basically going to have an offshoot podcast just about the design.
Yes, architecture in horror
sets.
Movies. I'm actually working on an essay, but we won't go there.
Are you really?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll drop it, you know, on one of our episodes.
Okay.
One of our episodes will just be Mike reading an essay.
An audio essay.
So yeah, and we also, we find out pretty early in the movie, kind of in the beginning, that Eden and Will have suffered a loss of their child, and that's kind of what led to this separation. Because I don't think they're actually divorced yet, are they? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I don't think they ever make it clear.
Yeah, I don't think they say.
But basically, yeah, we'll say separated, since we don't know. I don't like to put the divorce word if I don't know your relationship status. But they've lost a child, and Will is pretty deep in depression, as you would be, and Eden is
fakely happy.
Oddly happy and at ease. Also, Eden is dressed up like a goddamn reverse Morticia Addams, and I fucking am living for it.
Yes,
the hair, the fucking dress, except it's like white, and it's like blindingly obvious that it's not supposed to be black, and it's just a complete fucking denial of her grief, which is brilliant.
And I can't remember, I think it was you, Mike, that said it was like, or maybe it was Ron, I can't remember, but how her outfit's like very ritualistic. Like,
oh, it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
she's got that like necklace on, and she is dressed like, you know, some kind of ancient ritual. Like, she's either gonna go plunge the dagger into like the heart of a virgin and throw her in a volcano, or she's gonna throw herself in a volcano. One or the other.
It's even like similar to like a baptism, I'm thinking.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I will say, especially as this was when we actually sat down and to write notes, was my third time seeing it. And as someone that for most of the movie I feel is set up for you not to really like she's kind of an antagonist in this movie, whether you know it or not. Because you're obviously supposed to really be identifying with Will, I feel, as the protagonist. But the more I watch this movie, the more I really like her, and like kudos to that actress, because she's probably my favorite performance of the whole movie.
Oh, for sure.
I think she just did so amazing, and I think we should recognize that.
I was maybe a little bit, when I was making my notes when I was first watching it, I was not very generous. Because you know me, my first instinct is always to like be fucking catty and like just slice everything to bits. And I maybe, as I may have said to you before, called her a bargain bin Hillary Swank. But I came around, and I do think that like she was actually a very subtly like low key awesome in that movie. I enjoyed her.
Yeah, and I have written down like, to me, I felt when they kind of embrace each other, which that's probably one of my favorite scenes, and such a subtle thing. But they walk in the door and they're greeting each other, and Eden and Will hug, and she sees the speck of blood on his cheek from killing the coyote. He hasn't told the party yet that this happened, and she just kind of casually licks her thumb and wipes it off and says like, "Oh, you're a mess." And right away I kind of feel you can still almost, you can cut almost this like still kind of like I don't want to say sexual tension, but like you can still tell that they're very attached to each other through this loss.
Well, they care about each other, and I think the loss was really what drove them apart. And obviously they both they show her attempting to kill herself. Obviously, he's in a deep depression. So obviously this loss is, what drove them apart, and maybe without that loss, they'd still be together.
Yeah, and there was clearly not much in the way of closure.
Yeah.
No,
there's
exactly.
lots of fucking lingering issues there.
She goes to Mexico. He's just, isolating himself, so...
Although I was going to say, I feel like you could almost just rename the movie Sexual Tension, because as we progress in the party, there is weird hints at all these people with unresolved tension between, we see when Will, when they're at first coming in the party, he sees Sadie. They kind of set that up where Sadie's just naked in the doorway, kind of coyly smiling at him.
Yes, our introductory shot to her, by the way.
But I don't think there was tension there, because I don't feel like he really cared.
But then I'm saying, then even if he didn't reciprocate it, we then later on we'll talk about it develops between her, whether she's the only one that feels it. But then we have things such as when they sit down to play the game of what do you want to do. Even though we had this. Actually, before we get into that, I was gonna say the most important thing was kind of the heated discussion in the kitchen with Ben and Eden and Will, because I think that's when we first see Eden's kind of facade quickly drop. When Ben kind of is you're acting like a fucking nut bar, and she just kind of smacks him as hard as she can.
Oh yeah, that's when the repression that is clearly happening just bubbles over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my thing was the contrast between going from that to when they're playing the what do you want game. Eden's I've always wanted to kiss Ben. I've always wanted to make out with him. And yeah, it's just kind of these, like, weird psychosexual, like, repressed things, I feel, where once we discover what's going on, like, these people are just trying, you know, Eden is just trying to kind of get what she wants to do out there. And we have things like Gina and Sadie, like, make out, and, like, Gina makes that whole comment. I think she says something like she hasn't done that since, like, college, and then Miguel's partner, like, makes the comment about, like, oh, like, I just, like, want one of you to, like, suck my dick. And, yeah, it's just, like, this weird sexual tension that I just thought was interesting in all of these themes of depression and loss. And
I guess that's true, because what was this game called? It was, like, what do you want? Or, like, it was about saying what you want.
yeah.
And besides Gina, like, wanting Coke, everything was about sex. Like,
Yeah.
it's interesting that that's, like, what it went to, I
Just
guess.
an interesting point, I thought. And I guess it's important to bring up, we'll rewind back a little to before they play the game, and I'm sure I just want to hear Mike rant about this a bit, about when Eden and, is it David want to show everyone something quickly and bring the laptop out.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I mean, you don't even have to know anything about the plot of the movie to know sort of where this is going. Obviously, you know, it's not like some kind of fucking whodunit. But I could not help but, you know, like, I just thought this is, and like you said, there's this weird tension as well. Like, it's not just about, like, grief and death, but it's like a weird sexual thing, and there's all sorts of unresolved issues. And when they trotted out the laptop and laid it down, and everyone was sitting around, they're like, we want to show you something. I was like, I know this is probably going to be something horrific or really stupid, but I was like, please let them be like, this is our sex tape, and just have all these, like, old friends from, like, college sitting around, like, watching them, like, screw or whatever, or, like, have a 4G, and I was very disappointed when it came on, and it was like, oh, it's some, like, culty, you know, fucking propaganda video. It's like,
also
they can still fuck.
It's also really interesting, like, this should definitely be a first clue for anybody at this party, that they've invited them there, and it's everybody who is, like, an old friend. Like, they all have a prior relationship with each other except for these two randoms, right? And then it's kind of like, why are they here? Like, what's happening? Like, that should be a first clue that something strange is happening.
Yeah, the presence is a real tip-off.
Yeah, well, and especially because right before they bring out the laptop is, like, when Pruitt shows up and says, like, sorry, I'm late, and everyone's... Then I felt as a viewer, then you're like, okay, what's going on? Because we know we've been introduced to this whole cast that are dear friends for a long time, and they haven't seen each other in a long time, and then just this random guy, as well as we have Sadie there, and we're never given as a viewer, and the guests of the party aren't given a real reason why they're there, other than, like, oh, these are just, you know, David's like, these are some of my friends. And it just, like, it doesn't really make sense because of why that party was happening, why they would be there.
Yeah, and that really contributed to the, like, slow burn of that first, like, I'm like 3/4 of the movie, you know, where it's just like nothing happening as such, but it's just them sort of like being natural, and it's like not performative really, because they're all just, it's sort of like a regular small get together of friends where they're like chatting and breaking off and, you know, just sort of like hanging around, and it's not like we're gonna like have this expository conversation. Now obviously there is a little bit of that because they haven't seen each other in a long time, but I just found that like him showing up and like kind of walking from off screen, you know, that sort of like, it's like you get that more, the dread builds up because it's been slowly creeping, I think, the whole time, because you're like, okay, so what's the issue here? Something is going to happen. Like, when is that axe going to drop, so to speak?
I think the fact that there's no action in most of the movie, I don't know, it contributes to that, like, tension. Like, so much tension builds.
And I was gonna say, like, if for some reason you're listening to this and you haven't watched the movie and you plan on watching the movie, like, it is a very slow burn movie, and I think the slow burn was done really well. There was never a point that I was just like,
get on with it, right?
Come on. Like, it builds the creepy tension so well, and we're, as a viewer, like, you are Will, because we see Will's facial expressions, what he's saying to people. Another important scene is Will getting firewood outside, and he sees Eden, like, taking a pill out of a drawer through the window, and yeah, it's just like him noticing little odd things, and us as viewers are, like, brought into this paranoia with him of, like, something just seems really off. I was gonna say, like, probably the biggest off thing was, like, David locking the door with a key, and I was like, WTF, because I'm like, who has a lock for a key on the inside, eh?
Yeah, just throw the deadbolt, dude. Like,
yeah. But basically he locks it, and I think that's the first time we're kind of confronted with Will's paranoia, because he basically very loudly is kind of like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why are you locking us inside? And, David gives his, like...
Because he takes the key away.
Yeah, he keeps the key, and then David tries to excuse it with, like, oh, there's been break-ins, and I'm just worried about your safety.
Also, there's no cell phone service, because somebody tries to call something, or someone, but just, like, 2 seconds before that, David's actually talking to someone on their phone. And then also, I was thinking, too, Troy's in the house beforehand, calls and says that he's there, so he obviously has cell phone service. And then when Will gets that message, Will has cell phone service. So, like, I like how this, like, one really convenient point in the movie, they don't have cell phone service.
I mean, it is like real life, I guess.
Get a better
shit
carrier.
fucks you over, yeah.
I don't want to skip past. I do want to talk about, when we talk about Pruitt's, I can never remember the actor's name that played Pruitt.
Something Carroll Lynch. I can't remember his first name.
John Carroll Lynch, maybe?
Might be John.
Maybe. We'll say John.
Wait, hang on. One second.
The joys of...
John Carroll Lynch? Damn, I was right.
Yeah. John Carroll Lynch. I do not, like, out of anything in this movie, his performance when they're playing the what they want game, and what he wants to do is tell them about the story of his wife, that was, like, so crazy powerful, like, of a performance. And, him explaining that how much he loves his wife, and his wife, like, gave his life meaning, and then he murdered his wife by accident, in quotations, in a drunken stupor. And then I don't know if we're ready for that argument in the second recording of it. I said in the first recording, and I still agree, that I felt sympathy for him as he told that story, because he's trying to tell this story of, like, redemption, and how he was drunk and it affected his life, and he went to prison, and it was like, I would have never hurt her. But we'll talk about it very soon here, where that's not necessarily the case.
I'm trying to remember if he tells a story after they show the video.
Yes, it's after the video.
And I think they do. Yeah. And, like, if you're not gone after they show the video, and you're
the snuff film, it was essentially like a low-key snuff film.
And then he tells this story directly after. I was not feeling sympathy. I was like, you guys are fucking dead. Like, this guy is crazy.
There's bars on the fucking windows. The deadbolt is key only. Like, you're fucked.
Exactly. Like, I know Rowan was like, you know, all about redemption and blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, no. Like, this guy is randomly here. There's all these other signs. Like, this is not somebody I'm feeling bad for. This is literally someone who's gonna murder me.
Alarm bells.
Alarm
bells, yes. And, yeah, and so throughout the slow burn part of this movie, I think it's worth mentioning that we're continuously given more and more hints of the story of the son and his death, which the first couple times I watched it weren't clear, because I always thought he drowned. I don't know why I thought that, but
they keep well, it's very like
by a pool.
The flashbacks, yes, are very brief and I don't know, like dreamlike, obviously, and they cut back and forth, and you don't really get any sense of like context. So it does sort of like show water a lot, and like the pool in the backyard. So I thought the same thing when I was watching it. I was like, I mean, this is a drowning. You know, it's like Don't Look Now Redux, and
yeah, and it was like one of those things, like, I didn't know, like, I still don't know how I feel about it. If I thought maybe it should have, like, I get the idea that you kind of, like, have to watch the movie to get more and more context, but I also kind of felt like, would it really hurt the movie if they just kind of came out and said what happened to the son? Like, I felt it wasn't a big enough plot point.
I was gonna say, the reveal of, you know, how he died doesn't really affect anything one way or the other, so the act of sort of being vague about it just seems like it's obscuring it for no good reason.
Yeah, I kind of disagree, because I kind of like how they drew it out, because that was just like another side piece of the plot that, I don't know, I just thought the timing was fine. Like, they talked about it in different, like... Yeah, in, like, different
scenes and stuff. Another thing I was kind of confused about, because we discover that the son, they were doing something with a bat, and, like, the son got...
Pinatas, I say.
We're thinking pinatas. Why you'd be using, like, a wooden baseball bat with young kids? But, basically, by the looks of it, I assumed that another kid hit him in the head with a bat and he died.
I'm just saying, like, how hard do you have to hit a kid? How hard does one kid have to hit another kid for that kid to die? Yeah. Mike, you said that somebody hit you in the head with the bat and you're alive.
It was like my brother and his friend when I was like, I don't know, 7 or something. Like, we're just, you know, like throwing a ball around out in the street, and like I just like took a friggin' aluminum baseball bat in the side of the head, and I was fine. I mean, well, yeah. It was not. It was, you know. I mean, I'm sure some people would argue that I've not been fine since then, but I mean, I didn't die, so I guess that sort of, you know, underlines the point.
That's always good.
That sort of indicates there was like malicious intent. Like, I'm just gonna, you know, behead you with.
What I was kind of curious about too was, I mean, because we don't ever find out, but I wondered if, because we're not really told, I think, other than once with Ben, like, if any of these other people have kids. So I wondered, like...
Does Ben have kids? Oh, yeah, because his wife is at home.
Yeah, yes, I wondered, like, was the kid that killed their kid, like, any of these people's kid?
I would feel no, because I think that would definitely be brought up.
But yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, that would contribute to that, like, tension and, you know, like, lack of closure and stuff.
So, I guess, because we did bring her up, Claire decides to leave after the video. After the showing some woman die.
I.e. the only sensible person in that whole fucking house.
She's like, this is weird. She gets...
I was like, girl, take me with you.
Like, she got more weirded out with the game because she was just like... No, there's girls making out and...
Also, the guy just told everybody.
But did he tell it when she was still there?
Yeah. And then right after, she's like, no, this is...
Yeah, I gotta go.
And then he's like, I murdered my wife. Let me see you out to your car. In the dark.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I just randomly know that you're driving the Prius.
Oh, was it a Prius? Yes, it was, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we see her back away. That was, a great scene, where she backs out. Pruitt has moved his car. And
he runs after.
And then he gets out of his car, and he's just kind of standing there for a second, he's just, looking at a phone. And then as she starts to drive, he's like, oh, hey, Claire. And then out of frame, they both go out of frame, and...
They leave it as that.
And then Pruitt comes back and says he apologized because he didn't want to ruin the party.
And so in the actual script, Claire dies. He kills her. And on one of the scenes where Will is overlooking the hills, the Hollywood Hills, she was supposed to be laying in the bushes underneath that the deck, I guess, dying. But... that happened, they would show that way too early in the movie, and it would kind of have wrecked the tension, the suspense, so they took that out, and they just left it ambiguous.
I think that was a good idea.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah, because I still kind of fantasize that she just, stopped at 7-Eleven and, picked up some ice cream and said, fuck this shit. Fuck these people. I got a fucking good 10-year job at university.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just gonna go home and not die right now. That's in my head what happened.
She's at home eating ice cream, grading shitty first-year student papers.
Yeah. I mean, hating her life, but at least she's alive.
Yeah.
She's just thank God I'm alive. Yeah. Yeah, and so throughout this movie of paranoia and of Will... we have lots of moments where Will kind of freaks out, and every time he freaks out, it's kind of, there's a reasonable answer, or no one else is really feeling this paranoia like Will.
Well, when I'm reading about the movie, they said, so the people that were writing it or whatever said that the people were feeling the paranoia, but it was kind of a comment on, being polite and social niceties. It's they knew kind of something was going on, but they just wanted to be polite.
When you have that, you have that tension too of everyone knows that Will is suffering a very deep depression, as you would, about this loss, and I'm sure everyone's also thrown off by how nonchalant Eden is now and how happy she is.
Yeah, and how overly explicitly emotional that Will is.
Yeah. And we do know as the movie goes on that Eden tried to kill herself after the son died, so it's this total 180 where she's talking to everyone about embracing life and just not having to deal with the pain if you just let it go and you forgive yourself and all these kind of things. So do we want to talk about when they drink a lot of expensive wine in this movie, apparently. I'm not a wine connoisseur.
Do you have a comment on this?
Oh, do I ever? That wine that looked like a sludgy mud. I mostly drink, a nice fine $22 bottle of 2-liter wine that's usually just called red or white.
But does it look better than the so-called $500 bottle?
I was gonna say I've never had the pleasure of drinking a very, very fine bottle of wine, but I'm telling you right now, if someone poured that clay-looking shit into my glass, that I don't think I would probably drink it, but whatever. I'm sure if they said it was, $500 bottle of wine, I'd be like, bottoms up, bitches. But it had I just thought it was really cool, and it also reminded me of, the wine that they give her in Suspiria, which, when she throws into the sink, it's just completely dense, and it which obviously is for the Technicolor kind of spectacle of it, but to me,
note on that. So we were watching that. We got half hour in, and we're talking about Suspiria for a second. Yes. We got about a half hour in, and the words stopped lining up with the video, so we had to stop watching it. So to be,
I'm just gonna suck it up and buy it on Blu-ray. Yeah. And that's what happens when you watch it on a free app.
Exactly.
Yeah, on Tubi of all apps.
Oh my goodness.
So let's chug on. So we're moving upstairs.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended coming up. We move upstairs to the dining room, which
is disorienting.
I love it.
Yeah,
I don't. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. And we cut out about 20 minutes, I think, on this one of me and X talking about like the decor of the house and the layout of the house.
Yeah. I think you guys should definitely briefly talk.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't know if having a dining room upstairs is like a traditional thing anywhere else. I've never heard of it. To me, it really threw me off, and that was part of what like worked so well about the movie, because like the architecture of the house was a little disorienting, which contributed to that like bizarre tension, and it's like something's not right. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that was deliberate.
I absolutely love the dining room upstairs. And there was a house when my parents moved into the house they currently live in now that we went to see, and the dining room was on the second level. And also I've been looking at homes like back where Rowan and I are from, and there's a home for sale with a dining room on the second level. And I just like something about that I just love, because it's so
I do.
So strange. Like it is very disorienting. That's not how a house, quote unquote, should be designed.
We're staring at each other. I was thinking about I'm trying to remember the scene. There was a weird scene. I can't remember. It was briefly before they announced dinner upstairs. But there was a scene I just remember that for some reason David goes upstairs and then talks to everyone over the ledge.
Yes, because there's almost like a balcony overlooking the living room.
But it's before they call everyone up to dinner, and he says whatever he says, and then he immediately walks back downstairs. And I just remember thinking that was really odd that he it was like, I have to say this up on this balcony.
Oh yeah, well, he was having a fucking I am Evita moment, getting up on the balcony and raising his hands to his cheering.
I guess it's
after he showed them a snuff film, I'm going to decree.
I guess too, if you're wanting to speak to a group, maybe you'll get their attention more if you're saying it from a balcony rather than just amongst them.
Well, yes, I mean, it makes you feel more like a dictator or something, I guess. Or
yeah.
Some kind of power trip.
I know we keep trying to get upstairs, but I do want to say, I believe before they go upstairs, Will has one major freak out downstairs in front of everyone. Am I remember that? I think he brings up, why are you so cool about this? About our son
I believe
dying.
so, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
He has many a freak outs. So we go... Now, when they go upstairs, because the architecture is very interesting,
I think it's also because it's positioned on a hill, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, because
it's positioned on a hill. So you walk in, and on the main level it's the living room and stuff, but then how it's positioned on a hill,
because when he gets firewood, when Will's asked to get firewood, he's goes to the backyard on the first floor. Now, the scene I wanted to bring up next, where Will is watching David light a red lantern in the yard, that's upstairs. So they have another lawn, they have a lawn on the hill upstairs. So both levels kind of look like main floors.
Yeah, it is. That sort of contributes to that, vaguely off, disorienting.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't quite put your finger on it, but it just doesn't feel it's kind of like that, Haunting of Hill House, quote, where it's the angles don't add up and it's just one big distortion, right? And it's sort of just a bunch of slightly off angles that just, it's it gets under your skin, it makes it feel prickly, and you don't really know why.
Yes.
And as viewers, we don't know, we see Will watching David light this lantern, this red, very red lantern. We don't know why. He's just kind of like slips out, lights it, hangs it up, comes back, and we'll kind of find out more about that towards the ending. My only qualms with kind of all of this stuff is I kept saying that I thought it was weird that people were very visible in windows throughout the movie due to lighting, and no one acknowledges each other. Like, if it's dark outside and you're in a all glass window and I'm only a couple feet away from you, like, I could see you looking at me, but no one looks at each other. No one acknowledges.
So I was thinking more about this, and
you can't
when you're inside.
You can't see out when it's dark.
See, because you're seeing your own.
You're seeing the reflection, yeah.
Light.
Okay, true.
And you also, like I said before, people can see us in here. Our windows are floor to ceiling, but I never think about that. I don't think about how people are probably watching me from the street right now. It's just like I go about and living my life, and especially if you live in that house, which like Eden and David do, like they're probably not thinking about it.
Well, I mean, if you were constantly thinking about all the windows that go from floor to ceiling, you'd probably go nuts, and you'd be like, "Where's that peeping Tom with like their telescope across the way?" Right?
I'm that peeping Tom,
and that's the thing. Like Will is lurking. Like he's like,
yes, he kind of when he goes outside, he like skulks around, and it's like, are you gonna start going through Eden's trash bin out there now, like looking in the window while she's taking those pills, which I really wish he had taken some of and went on a trip. But that's a whole other movie, I guess.
This is when I insert the story about how if you're a rich person, you have your lights on at nighttime. I'm going to look through your windows to see what your house looks like inside.
Absolutely.
Just remember that, rich people listening to this podcast.
Yeah, you better hope I don't live in your neighborhood.
If you've got some giant-ass TV and it's like 8 o'clock at night and I'm walking up the road and you got big old fucking windows, you bet your ass as I'm walking by, going to like crane my head and look at what you're watching.
And judge.
Obviously, yes. 100%.
We did talk about this last time, though. If I like look in somebody's window, just like not creepily, but
but as you're walking down the street, you
happen
just
to turn my head. But if I see somebody in there, then I don't look because I do think that's pretty creepy. But if I don't see a person, I'll like take note.
Now you'll have to see. Now that it's been a couple days since we've seen this, when Will finds the laptop in David's room, which I love that scene because that's before the dinner, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So he asks if it's okay if he goes and looks at his son's room, which has been transformed into David's office.
Has it been?
Yeah, because he walks in the room and then it's the dreamy
flashback
camera stuff, and he's seen the room
as
his
it
kid's
was,
room. And then as it fades into the normalcy of the room, we see the desk.
I thought he laid down on his son's bed.
Yeah, but I think that was sort of one of those weird,
Yeah, no, he does in the dream. I think when he's just sitting on the floor or something when it gets out of that.
Okay, I have a question. This is kind of a creepy question, but if you guys had kids and they died, would you keep their room how it was, or would you change it?
I am not prepared to answer that, because that is really fucking depressing.
I say Daddy needs a room to podcast in, so
my
question...
Okay, and on the opposite end, I'm a fucking hoarder, so I would probably be like, fuck yes, I'm just gonna keep everything in there and make it like a depression room.
Well, realistically, I'm just buying stuff
it.
for myself and say it's for my kids, so that stuff's mine anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh my god.
You'd be like, now I don't have to put on airs as if I bought all these toys for a child, when really they're for me, a grown-ass man.
Is mine.
Yeah.
But so in this scene, Will opens the laptop up. Probably the only product placement in the whole film. Shout out to Apple. And this is where he sees the video And this is kind of the first, this is kind of our first nod that we really see something going on, because it's a video of the cult leader, or the, Eden claims is not a cult, but we all know it is. And the leader saying, like, I can't wait to be with you all, like, tonight's the night, I've been given the message. So we kind of get that feeling, and then he's interrupted. Pruitt says, it's time for dinner, which is kind of, I don't know what you guys thought, but I thought it was really fucking rude, because, like, this used to be Will's place. And they all knew, because he asked in front of everyone, like, can I go look at my dead son's room and try to grieve?
Yeah.
And then Pruitt essentially just, like, grabs him by the shoulder and is like, okay, that's enough. Like, come on now.
Fuck your grief.
Yeah, and, like, doesn't walk in front of him when Will's like, okay. He walks behind Will, so Will has to go.
Well, I mean, it's like, a warden walking behind the prisoner.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
well, obviously David had, like, probably told him to get him out of the
Yeah,
room.
exactly. Which was also weird, because, like, he was also watching the video after Pruitt knocked, and I'm thinking, like, you have to hear him playing the sound on this video. But I guess whatever. So yeah, we go upstairs. Before dinner, we have what I at first, like, I thought Will was on something, or had been giving something, because Will is, like, hallucinating conversations, or you don't know if he is. He's like, Miguel's partner comes out and talks.
Oh, Tommy was his name.
Tommy,
yes.
There we go. We can stop saying Miguel's partner.
Yes.
He has a name, Tommy. Like, Tommy talks to him, and it's like, oh, like, are you okay? Like, we're here for you. He, the real sexual tension of him and Sadie at the pool, where we get Sadie's getting a little freaky, and, she's like, you can do what, you can fuck me right now and do whatever you want, and, like, you can beat me, and whatever she says. I don't know if she says.
I don't remember.
She says something. She says something about, like, choking her. Like,
she says this to Will.
Yeah, but you don't know if it's real, because that's why. Because then it goes to him and he's drinking and he's looking off to the thing.
Do you remember that?
I'm wondering if Ro was having a hallucinatory moment, because I don't remember that either. But that's fine. That's fine.
Trust me. If you watch this episode, you don't remember, because they're by, like, there's, like, a pool or a jacuzzi there, and he's just, like, standing there, and she's there, and because she comes up and she's like, you could have me, and she's like,
yeah. I don't remember that at all.
Okay,
I think it's time to move on from that scene.
Yeah. When we're done,
we're gonna just argue for the rest of the episode about whether that actually happened or not.
When we're done recording this, I'm gonna show Exilia that scene.
I look forward to episode 4 being, housekeeping. The scene actually happened.
We will come back next episode and tell you it exists.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I'm saying is he has all these interactions with different people, but then it kind of flashes back to him drinking and just standing there, and those people aren't there. So I didn't know if that was real or not, or if it was just a technique to fit these conversations.
I also don't have any notes about that in my thing.
Yeah, whatever, guys. Okay, it happened. It happened.
Okay,
let's get to the dinner.
MoveOn.org.
They sit. That was like the most 90s thing.
Listen, I'm feeling very 90s today.
But yeah, so let's talk about the dinner, the magnificent scene of dinner.
Oh yes, and before we get to that, I don't know if this was, because my notes are sort of all over the place. I don't know. I think this was when they were walking up to dinner, or maybe it was just when they were doing something else right before dinner. But that shot of, like, because it was weird, because the aesthetic of this movie was very muted and subtle for the most part, except for, like, little flashes here and there. And I found, like, the shot of those beautiful, like, kind of open stairs when they were going up to the thing, and it just showed like all their boots, and like their boots were like metonymic for like their characters, so you could tell who everybody was just by seeing their feet. And it's like, oh look, there's Barefoot Sadie, and I thought that was a beautiful shot, and I loved Gina's boots. She was rocking it. It was very 80s. It was awesome. Anyway.
Also, the phone call was before the message was before the dinner.
Oh yes, because he shows up during the dinner.
Troy, yes, Troy. Well, he gets the message while he's standing outside because he gets service.
Yeah, before the dinner. So yeah, we should bring up. He gets a message from Troy that he says, "Hey man, I'm the first one at this party. I forgot to pick something up. Can you pick it up for me? Thanks." So this is like the biggest Will freak out. Because as Will is sitting at dinner, before he freaks out, I know Mike agrees with me, the amazing scene that I think he's processing everything, and the phone call, the message he just got, and he's watching everyone drink and eat.
Oh, God, yes. It was so well done. I think that was a masterful scene, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, do you want to talk about it a little, Mike? Like, I feel like we'll just gush about it.
We will gush. But again, and that's, there was all that, like, wine and stuff, but it was, like, at this point, I mean, nothing happened, as we said. Like, it was just, like, tension, and it's like, is this actually a horror movie, or is this kind of like a fucking Bergman, like, chamber drama, just dealing with grief? And, but that was the first, actually, like, my note was just, like, caps, like, this is the goriest scene in the whole movie, because they're just all, like, so drink, and then it's like, you look at the wine, and the reason why it was, like, so fucking thick and, like, viscous is because it's bloody. It's, like, a bloody goddamn wine in their goblets, and it's just sloshing everywhere, and it's like something out of, like,
very primal.
Oh, yeah. It's like, they just all came back from war, and, like, there's shots of them, like, tearing everything apart, and, like, it's, like, food hanging out of their mouths, and it's like, we just got back from, like, Beowulf, and, we're in, like, a banquet hall in the side of a mountain, and, it was just so primal and, like, fucking, like I said, bloody and gory without actually any blood or gore. It was beautiful. Like, hats off to Karyn Kusama,
Yeah, I love that scene. And like you said, to me, like, I also thought the same thing when I saw it. I was like, this is, like, all this tension, and this, to me, is, like, the real first horror shot of the film. Like, to me, this, like, makes it a horror movie, just the cinematography of it all. And, like, turning something so simple as, like, friends eating this dinner and having drinks into this just, like, primal
slow motion orgy
of like violent, like, it's so violent, and they're just doing something so mundane.
Yeah, and it's like, well, they were playing that game, and it's like, want, what is your want? And it goes from, like, want to just, like, fucking utter consumption. They're just like, there's no more want, we're just consuming and, like, filling the want,
It's like those, like, I guess you'd think about, like, maybe 1600s, like, kings in England, and it's just like this really, like, gluttonous,
like Canterbury Tales.
Gluttonous is such a great word for it.
Beast.
So yeah, and then
Sinful.
once Will snaps kind of out of it, and we go back to, like, a normal camera shot, we have the freak out, the meltdown, Will informing everyone that he got this message. Where the fuck is Troy? Like, Troy was here. What is going on? And people are confused. They're like, is this true? And
who walks in?
And who walks in?
Troy.
Fucking Troy.
It's so awkward. And he's like, what's going on? Why is everybody so fucking awkward right now?
Troy was not, because we are very led to believe, because we're going down this descent of what we think could, like, to me, when I was watching this, as we get to this point, I'm really thinking this is going to be the twist. The twist is that Will has completely lost it. That there's nothing out of place in this movie except for Will's thoughts. And Troy, like, just helps solidify that. Because we're like, okay, Will just had the biggest blowout, and here's Troy. Because we're thinking maybe they murdered Troy. And no, Troy's right there. Troy said, you know what? I just went and picked the stuff up. I got here. What did he say? I got called into work. Something about work.
Or he had to go back to
He had to
work
go
or
back to
something.
work. And everyone's like, that's fucking Troy. Oh, Troy, oh, Troy. And then, yeah, so I'm trying to think, like, they offer, they're pretty much done food, so they say, Troy, we're gonna get you a plate of food. And I think the food's a very important part as we get to this climax, because they bring up the fact that they cooked everyone's favorite foods. And they slyly mention, like, we wanted to make sure, like, this meal we have together is, like, something everyone wants and enjoys, how great it is for this meal.
And it's like we were talking about, you know, like, how Eden seemed, like, dressed like a ritual, and it's, the food is, like, ritualistic. It's, like, this ritual consumption. I just thought that was interesting.
And then we bring out another bottle of wine.
Viscous, thick, syrupy wine.
And the glasses they put this wine
Oh
in.
my god, I just can't with those glasses. Like, even before I knew that it was, like, fucking poison, which, you know, I knew it wasn't anyway. I was looking at these little tiny fucking glasses, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? You are supposed to be at a party. You can't take a tiny ass glass that, like, you can fit one mouthful of wine in. Like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, well, in like, I don't know how you felt, Exilia, but I felt like when I saw those, like, when you see those glasses, like, you're like, these are the most cult-looking glasses.
Oh yeah, like little goblets.
I'm feeling really confused right now because I remember Troy freaking out and like bashing the glasses at everybody's hands. He's like, don't drink that.
Will
Don't
did that.
Will bashing the glass of out of everybody's hands and be like, don't drink that. Don't drink that. But I guess that was after.
Yeah,
no, well, they pour it up and, you know, kind of cheers or whatever, and then only Gina starts drinking it, and then he freaks out and slaps.
Because what happens is Will freaked out about Troy not being there.
Yeah, but then, like, once Troy shows up, Will kind of, like, questions himself.
Yeah,
well, yes, he goes into the bathroom and splashes some water on his face from that beautiful faucet, and the, like, mirrors everywhere that, like, does that infinite regression, which also makes you feel like, is he, like, splintered?
And then he comes out and he apologizes.
Yeah, but what, like, cues him into the fact that, or clues him into the fact that he needs to smash his glasses?
I think he just,
like, no, he's like angry and he literally bashes them out of their hands.
Because he settles down, and then I think they pour the wine, they give it to everyone. I think it's just, I mean, it's ritualistic. We know as they're giving their speech to the glass. I mean, it's a cult speech, like, you know, I forget what they say, but it's a very, like, you're about to drink some shit speech.
I don't know. For some reason I'm drawing blank, but yes, sorry, continue.
Well, we're saying what happens. That's what happens. He apologizes, because I think even though he apologizes, he's still thinking something's off.
How do you go from apology to then, like, bashing cups out of people's hands?
Well, because you also have to remember that the wine, David got the wine elsewhere. David went downstairs to get a special bottle.
Also, I feel like we should not fault the movie for us having shitty memories, which is what's happening right now.
I don't know.
I don't remember what happened in that, like, 30 seconds of the movie, so let's...
I have a good memory,
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what happened.
I mean, I haven't seen this for about a week now. Okay,
Yeah.
It's only been like 4 days.
Carnage ensues.
So
People get shot. People get
Will
stabbed.
freaks out, smashes the glasses, says, "Don't drink this."
And then Sadie attacks him.
And Sadie attacks him and says, "You fucked everything up."
And then he smashes her head. Well, by accident.
He pushes her and smashes her head, and as an audience, we're kind of like, yeah, Will is gone, because we're like, he literally
He pruited Sadie.
Yeah, we think she's pretty much dead, and we're like, you know, like, what is wrong with this guy? she is still alive. She's still breathing.
But someone's like, she's not breathing. And then you think that we're talking about Sadie, but really they're talking about Gina.
Oh, my girl.
Gina, the party girl, had the drink before the toast.
I'm just going to say, in that party, I would have been the one dead first, because that whole glass would have just been like, bottoms up, bitches.
Mike was voted in his yearbook first one to die at a call.
First one to die from drinking poison wine. Yep.
So Gina is frothing at the mouth. I have written in my notes, when shit hits the fan, it hits the fan in this movie, and I love every second of it.
Oh yeah, it goes to hell literally in 60 seconds, and then it's like, what is even happening?
Miguel runs to help Gina. People are confused because obviously, like, none of these guests think that Eden is trying to kill them yet. And they're like, what's wrong with her? Blah, blah, blah.
They're dumb.
And then we hear the pop, and David has shot Miguel. And, yeah, wow. And David freaks out. He was not made to shoot people. And this is where I want to bring this up, because this is where I learned that sympathy I had for Pruitt was not called for, because Pruitt, then there's that, I love this scene where Pruitt slowly goes to David like, give me the gun, and you almost at first have a feeling like it's like, you know, like you're trying to disarm this guy and calm the situation, and he's like, give me the gun, and then I believe he just automatically takes the gun and shoots Troy.
Oh yeah, and then it's just 5 minutes of people dead everywhere, and it's like, I don't know who's alive and who's dead.
Pruitt is a psychopath. Pruitt is a psychopath.
Okay, so for normal people, we learned that at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
For Rowan, he's just cluing in 5 minutes before the end.
Well, there's more than 5 minutes. But yeah, then this movie ramps it up, and then we really get into this, like, you know,
10 minutes of carnage and hide and seek.
10 minutes of carnage, home invasion feeling. Everybody is, I like, you know, if you have it, I don't think we really need to go into like every death.
No, it's just it all happens so fast,
die.
And
yeah,
everyone's dying.
Many people die.
I think the kind of the most emotional one is, you know, Eden. I forget who it is, but Eden does shoot someone. Oh, Eden shoots Will in the arm. And then Eden kind of like has that meltdown where she realizes like this isn't what she wants. Like she isn't.
This isn't going to solve my problems. I'm going to shoot myself in the stomach.
And she can't believe what she's done, and she shoots herself in the stomach. I think because she doesn't see a way out of it anymore.
And Mike had a good comment about that, about how she, like, shoots herself in the womb.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's like people are getting, like, stabbed in the heart and shot in the womb, and it's just, like... And her name is Eden, and everything is so, like, on the nose, but it's not irritatingly so. It's kind of like, I appreciated it. I appreciated her, like, you know... the fucking, like, unresolved grief of her, like, dead child, and it's like, I'm gonna shoot myself in the stomach. In this, like, beautiful white dress. And then just, like, yeah.
And to me, like, that, because then she shoots herself, and Will kind of goes up, because she kind of, like, that she says, like, she wants Will to hold her or whatever for a second, and he does. And I found it more powerful the third time watch it. Like, I was tearing up a bit. Like, it was really emotional, where Eden kind of comes to this realization that, you know, like, she isn't over this death of her son, and she hasn't resolved these feelings and depression.
Oopsie, after she invited all of her closest friends to be murdered, she all of a sudden realizes, oh, wait, I have issues. Maybe I shouldn't have everybody murdered.
Why are you staring at me?
She meant well.
No, I just thought it was nice. It kind of shows that they, you know, obviously still care about each other and have feelings about each other.
Exilia, everyone that's listening in podcast land is wondering why I'm saying Exilia, because I'm about 90% sure she's falling asleep.
I'm not falling
during
asleep.
The podcast.
I'm not falling asleep. I'm listening to what you guys have to say.
And not commenting.
Because you guys were
Just know,
saying good
podcast,
things.
if she ever snores on mic, I will not delete it.
I didn't know what he was. I was staring at him because he was like moving his arms like crazy, and I thought he was actually just trying to get mad at me for. I swivel my chair back and forth, and sometimes he gets mad at me with his arm.
Mad with his arm.
Like flailing his arms. So that's what I thought he was talking about. Sorry.
And don't worry, audience, I'm not prude, okay?
That's not funny.
That isn't funny. We should make jokes about that. I'm sorry. But yeah, so we totally broke the mood of how emotional that part of the ending was. But yeah, like I teared up a bit. I thought it was like really beautiful where like they're kind of, even though she essentially has helped kill all their friends. I
mean, she kind of invited them all.
And tried to kill him. Like, they just have like this real ass moment as a couple grieving over their son, and he kind of like lets her know, even though she's about, you know, she's gonna die, that like it's okay, like, you know, I get it. And yeah, this brings us to the ending where she asks to be outside. She wants to die out. She wants to be outside. It's beautiful.
We can't forget how Kira's the hero in this.
Yes,
story.
Kira is the hero.
After doing nothing all movie.
Yeah,
I was so
Kira is
disappointed
such
that she
a
did nothing, but she really like
Kira is a non-factor.
They pulled her out. They pulled her out.
The entire movie, like most of the movie, where I'm like, why did we even need this character? And then you get to like, she's kicking Pruitt's ass.
Yeah.
She's just kicking ass and taking
I think
names.
she's also like there to be strong for Will.
Yeah,
because when they're by the pool and she's like, you know, I can help you, blah blah blah, and he says no, you can't, or whatever. But like throughout the whole thing, she's like trying to be strong for him. Yeah. Also, she's accompanying him to this super fucking awkward dinner, which is probably very awkward for him as well.
And you need a buffer. She's a buffer.
Yeah,
she's a good
right?
buffer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Kira and Will, Carrie, and Eden come out to the lawn to end it. We now get to why the Red Lantern was so important. Exilia, you love the ending, so why don't you talk about the ending?
Why are you putting me on the spot? Yeah, so then you go out and you hear all these like helicopters, police helicopters and sirens and stuff, and then they look out over the hills and you find out that pretty much every house on the hills has this red lantern lit up, and like obviously it wasn't just an isolated case for this house, like the whole city was participating in this.
Yeah, and it goes from like chamber drama to like fucking apocalypse. Yeah. In like 5 minutes.
There's a helicopter and you hear gunshots and screaming and
it's like an excellent ending.
Yeah, it's like Fight Club, then credits.
And then I was gonna say, like, and even to make it more, it hits you even harder after you examine it, because we didn't bring it up, but when they talk about this cult, when they show the video at the beginning of the party, the cult is called like the Invitation. A bunch of the party members bring up like, oh, my boss went to Mexico to the Invitation. Like, almost everyone there had heard of it and knew people that were involved in it. But at that time, we don't really know the significance.
Yeah, like how widespread is it? Then at the end, it's like, is this just in the city? Is it all over the world? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just brilliant. It makes your skin crawl, and then cuts to the credits, and it's like, oh god, I'm gonna think about that all day.
It's kind of smart to put it in LA because, like, I don't know, I've only like been in the airport there, but I feel like the Hollywood Hills and like people that have money and whatever, there might be susceptible to cults. Like, that's just my
well, it's trends and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
like
Tom
weird,
Cruise
fitting in.
Yeah, exactly. Weird ass trends. Yeah, you know, more money than brains.
Don't try to belittle my character or whatever. What is it they say?
Scientology.
Yeah, Scientology.
I don't know. It's all about definition.
Don't shut our podcast down because we talked about Scientology.
Oh no, they're gonna come after us.
Here we go.
But yeah, so let's get. You know, we talked about it. I think it's definitely time to get to the ratings. Let's start with Mike. A yay Or a nay, a yay, or a slay?
I really, really enjoyed it. It's not quite a slay for me. Slay is reserved for, something that sort of, for whatever reason, hits me at a different level. And I loved it, so I'm definitely giving it a yay, because it was definitely not an A. It was very well done, even though it was, low budget, and, it was just, everything about it really, stuck with me, too. But, yeah, it was definitely a yay. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it's, she's a very artful director, and, I can't wait to see her new movie with Nicole Kidman. X?
Yep, I'm the same. I say yay as well. This was my second time seeing it, and it was it's a really well done movie. I love the aesthetic. It's awesome. I think everybody should see it. And the ending was just wow. It really, really wowed you. And the tension, it was really, good attention building, but it's not something that was, well replicated after the first viewing.
Yeah, it does not, hold up to multiple viewings in terms of, gripping you, I guess.
Yeah, because, it's not really good at building tension after the first time, because you, know what's going to happen. This, really crazy twist ending. But in saying that, it was a really, really good movie. And same with Mike. Slay is reserved for, you can't give every movie a slay, because then it means nothing. Slay is reserved for, the best.
Garbage Pail Kids.
The Garbage Pail. So, yeah, it was a yay for me.
Yeah, so I really tormented over this, because I do really love this movie. Like I said, this was my third time watching it, and I was still pulling stuff from it that I didn't get on the first or second view, but I will give it a yay. The big factor, like everyone has said, is that once you've seen it once, you know the twist ending, so it doesn't have that same, holy crap impact. But I still did enjoy it on the other views, because I since I knew the twist plot, I was looking at other things that I could pull, and that's where, like I said, the third time watching it, the interactions between Will and Eden, really kind of teared me up at the end that it didn't the first time, because I was in shock of the twist ending going on. But yeah, I think a yay. I think it's definitely something everyone should check out at least once. I would always tell people to watch it, and it's a great movie, even if you're not a big horror person.
It's more psychological. It's a psychological horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something for everyone. And then the only fact I had written down that I said I'd wait till the ending was just kind of a fun fact that the original cast of it was supposed to be Luke Wilson and Zachary Quinto, Topher Grace, and Johnny Galecki. So I think that would have been interesting. And I think Exilia had I forgot to write down why they weren't.
So I believe I had read that it was something about how all these people were supposed to be in it together, and how that would kind of take away from the story, because there'd be so much focus on who the actors.
Yeah, they're so recognizable. You already have preconceived notions of who they are.
I mean, not that they really, I've seen the OC, so that still happened to me.
But that just proves the point, right? You come in kind of loaded with expectations, and it's kind of a chamber drama style movie like that doesn't really work.
And I think Buddy, outside of people that have seen the OC, nobody probably knows who that guy is. No offense to that guy, but
and everyone they casted did amazing. Yeah. So I would have liked to seen Topher Grace. Any horror I've seen recently because Topher Grace has been kind of dipping his toe in that pool. Topher Grace, I could see him playing David very well. I think can be creepy.
He's kind of could have this creepy preppy vibe too, I feel. Yeah. Also, this is a good segue into the fact that we have this bonus episode pull up, because Luke Wilson is in my pick.
Yes. Okay, so now that we've wrapped up
Sorry for that abrupt wrap-up.
the invitation, we'll do the housekeeping to end everything off. So before we do that, let's get into the March poll winner. It was a heated battle, our first fan poll pick. It was a battle.
It was intense. It kept me on edge.
Between Mike and Exilia, and the winner, the gracious winner.
Oh, so gracious.
Was Mike, and do you want to announce what movie it was?
Oh, yes, do I ever. Now, I am sad that at this point in time, we are not doing Mandy, but we reserve the right to several episodes down the road talk about that one, so never fear. But for now, it will be the original version of My Bloody Valentine, because it was a March movies beginning with M, so there we go.
I'm despite the fact we're not doing Mandy, and I'm pretty sad that I don't get to see Nicolas Cage and his many faces, it's kind of cool because it was filmed in Cape Breton, which is an island in the province that Rowan and I are from, and it's between where Rowan and I are from and where Mike is from.
Yes,
so
it's little,
like at home.
Yes, it's.
And you only lost by 1 point. So.
There were a lot of votes. There really were, and I mean, I kind of cheated a little bit because I voted for myself.
I didn't vote at all, you cheater.
I kind of lost it I kind of lost by 2,
But yeah, thanks to everyone that voted for that. You'll be listening to this episode this Sunday, the 17th, I believe.
Oh my gosh, of March.
Yeah.
Assuming
so
that we didn't fuck it up
that
again.
episode will be out the next week. So you're actually getting 3 weeks straight of us. So hopefully you don't get sick of us. And we'll announce the new poll is up. And when you hear this episode, it will still be up. It's up till the end of March. It's for April. The theme is home invasion movies.
Although mine takes place in a motel, but a motel's kind of your home away from home.
Sometimes. Exactly.
So, Exilia, would you like to say what your pick was?
Yep, so mine is Vacancy. This is a movie that Rowan and I saw in the theater twice, and in my humble opinion, I think it's pretty underrated, to be honest.
And I picked, I don't know Spanish, so I can't say the Spanish name of it, but I picked Kidnap. I don't know when it's from, 2010 maybe?
Yes, I think it said that.
I think it's 2010. It's a subtitled movie, but it is a intense home invasion movie. So you can vote on the Facebook group, as well as we opened it up to Instagram. So all you have to do is go to our Instagram, go to that post, and just comment what movie you would like, and we'll add that with the votes, and we will see who wins. I know Exilia is very, very ahead of me right now.
Sorry. Maybe people just feel bad that I lost last time.
Maybe. So the only couple other things I wanted to bring up. I did want to thank everyone. We got a message on our Facebook group the other day that our Facebook group reached 50 followers and fan likes. So I want to thank everyone.
Thanks to the fans.
We heard you.
Thank you everyone that's been listening. And like, I'm sure these guys will say something too, but I know, like, from deep in my heart, I want to thank everyone. The numbers have been very surprising. Like, we're getting way more listens than I ever thought these were gonna get in a year. And we're getting them like within a week of the episodes coming out. We're getting lots of interaction with people. We love when you messages, Instagram stories. Everyone's been sharing on Instagram. Make sure Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything social media, It Slays Podcast, we're there. Follow us, and interact with us, because one of us will be responding, because we don't have that much of lives.
I thought you were gonna let us talk.
Yeah, I'm saying are you guys happy? Are you guys?
No, I hate it. I thought maybe like 2 people would listen, and we've only had 2 episodes out, and I'm very surprised that more people want to hear what we have to say or what Mike has to say. Shout out to all of chapters.
Mike's the celebrity.
Yeah.
He brings the star power. So my last and I guess first kind of plug is this will be the first time we talk about we have launched our Patreon at www.patreon.com/itslayspodcast. We encourage everyone to check it out and join I don't know, our temporary name. I keep saying the Horror Hounds. I feel like every podcast has to have like some sort of catchy name for people that follow it. So there's 3 tiers set up. There's lots of great things there, from demanding we watch a movie and we have to do it, to getting a shout out, to possibly getting like funny exclusive video content from us, and even shirts, t-shirts. So that's exciting. I don't even own a t-shirt. Well, I own a t-shirt, just not a It Slays Podcast t-shirt. So yeah, check that out if you'd like to join us on Patreon. And last but not least, I say we end it and let everyone know what the next review will be.
Why don't we let Mike do it, because he hasn't done it yet.
Mike say no, because I know he does not remember.
Just kidding.
It's okay, Mike. This is a casual conversation.
Yeah, not academic, not structured.
You go ahead.
I always say it.
Okay, I'll say it. So we are going to be reviewing the lots of love for the man, and oddly, I keep saying a lot of horror podcasts revere him. Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses.
Number 2 from my top 5 list.
Yeah, number 2 from Exilia's top 5 list. Very interested to get into that and, see what he's gonna rate on the nay, yay, or slay scale. But I feel like we don't want to take up too much of your time, so we will end it there for now. We can't wait to get back to you the week after this with our bonus review, and yeah, just keep interacting with you. So as always, thank you for listening. I am Rowan.
This is Mike saying, love you all. Thank you.
Bye.
And so long.